and this is going to last 30 minutes. So I'll try to uh, pace myself and not go too quickly through everything. But I'll try to also give you as much value as possible in the short half an hour we're here. After the webinar, I'll send you an email with more information. And if you got any questions, just write in the chat and Hanne will try to answer you, or we'll take questions at the end if there's time. So without let me just share my screen and then we'll get started. So I'll share my screen now, and yes, so how to create an onboarding process that people love. That's the topic of this webinar, and we'll go through a couple of important steps in order for you to create a better onboarding process. So um, I'd like to start by talking a bit about the importance of onboarding and why companies should invest. So 86% of new hires, they decide whether they want to stay or leave your organization within the first 6 months. So, and first impressions are really hard to change. So creating an onboarding experience that makes people say, wow, that's critical if you want employees to get up to productivity faster, create a great culture, have a better employer branding where more top talent want to apply for jobs at your organization. Also reducing turnover. So that's some of the benefits of creating a better onboarding experience. There's a lot of data that backs this claim. So companies who score higher in their onboarding maturity are 5 times more likely to see an increase in employee retention. So if you're struggling with retention, there might be many reasons to it, but having a great onboarding experience is one of the ways you can improve the retention in your company. But also getting people ramped up faster. We see that companies who have a structured and well thought out onboarding experience get people ramped up much faster. Some of the surveys that Talia Bauer has done has shown that employees in a call center, for example, the group that went through a thorough onboarding process that was standardized were 50% faster up to full productivity. And I think it was 3 times more likely to be in the company 3 years later. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And so I've written a book about onboarding together with Talia. So Talia is the leading scientist in the world when it comes to onboarding. She's been studying it for almost 3 decades now. She's been helping companies like Google to build their Noogle onboarding program. And I think that's where you want to be if you want to have like an amazing onboarding experience. You want to have a concept for your onboarding and create a great culture for onboarding people well into your organization. And in order to understand what you should focus on, Talia Bauer has found 6 important factors. So number 1, that's compliance. And then you've got clarification, which is a critical aspect of onboarding. Employees that have not been clarified what the responsibilities are, what the expectations are far less likely to get up to productivity as fast as employees who have gotten clarification. Confidence, that's really critical in order to get people to feel like they chose the right place to work, but also in order to build psychological safety and get them to feel success at work. Connection, that's the most critical factor if you want employees to stay in the company for a long time. And that's actually the most important factor out of all of this when it comes to most of the things that you want to improve by improving the onboarding, like turnover, time to productivity, and just employer branding aspect as well. So people who feel very connected to their manager are, for example, much more productive and better um, than employees who don't feel that connection. And then culture, that's the hardest one to measure. It's really hard to understand like exactly how much culture helps, but we all know that culture is a critical part of bringing people who's an outsider to become an insider. And then check back, that's also an important step where you want to continuously improve and get feedback from people, also get managers and new hires to have check-ins regularly. So this is how we build an onboarding program here at Preppio. We use these 6 C's, and then we try to figure out how we can use this design thinking framework. So, a very common mistake is that the onboarding process is very built from a very compliance oriented perspective, and the user or the employee have not been put in the center of this experience. So in order to create a great onboarding experience, you need to first empathize with the user, which is the new hire, and try to think about, how does the journey feel for them? What is important for them? And then implement the steps you want them to take from the employee perspective. If you empathize with the user and try to define a process where you've thought about how it feels getting into your organization, you'll be far more likely to create a good onboarding experience versus just thinking about what we want the employee to do. And you'll increase the chances of them actually doing what you want them to do. So one of the steps is, for example, to figure out like what's the persona, like who are we actually hiring, and depending on the persona and the way they. So if you're, for example, hiring a lot of young people to the organization, your onboarding experience should be different than if you're hiring people who worked, for 10, 20 years, and then you're trying to onboard them. So there's many aspects to this. I won't go into the details, but this is the groundwork that is really critical if you want to create a great onboarding experience. Um, so I don't have this in the presentation today, but I just want to mention something, and that's a theory that it actually won the Nobel Prize in economics a few years ago, which is nudge theory. So people are far more likely to do what you want them to do if you use nudging instead of making it hard for people to do it. So for example, if you want to design a journey where all the new hires get, I don't know, a phone call from their hiring manager 10 days before day one, you could probably build that into your checklist of things to do, put it in SharePoint or whatever, intranet you're using, and then hope that managers go to that page, find that checklist, go to step number 8, which is call your new hire, right? But as a manager, I'm busy. I don't know why this is even important, and I'll just forget to do it. So if you're using nudge theory, what you would do is you would automate a message to the manager on the channel where they're most likely to receive that information and proactively nudge them to make the call. So for example, we know that email is a channel where I think right now over 50% of internal emails in a large organization are not opened by employees. So that could be a channel. We know that the preferred method of communication is instant messaging. So why not send a message in Microsoft Teams or Slack or SMS? And the message would be, hi manager, in 10 days your new hire starts. Here is their phone number, and here is some practical advice on what you can talk to them in this call. Employees who get a phone call from their managers 10 days before start are more likely to be productive 2 weeks later. something like that. That would create a nudge to the manager that would make them more likely to call the new hire. That is just one example of how design thinking and nudge theory, together with um, the the coaching that I think is critical for managers in order to deliver on the onboarding experience. So I just wanted to show you this communication preferences because I think that's really important in order to create an engaging onboarding experience. When we are designing the onboarding experience with our customers, we like to look at Airbnb. They had an impossible task of creating a service where strangers are going to sleep in other strangers' houses, and they struggled to build a product that would take off. It was really hard, but the founders of Airbnb, they knew there was something here because whenever there was like a designer conference, designers had no problem, and all the hotels were booked in that city. The designers that wanted to go to that conference, they had no problem sleeping over at other designers' apartments who lived in that city. That would actually be a better experience. If you're going to stay at the design conference, would you rather stay in a hotel or would you like to stay with other designers? And through design thinking, they created the 11-star framework, where they built, the 1-star experience. Knock knock, no response. You need to, try to find a hotel late at night. You will tell everyone how bad the Airbnb experience is, and no one, that hears about your story would want to stay there. You know, 2-star experience, knock on the door, wait 20 minutes for the host. The expected experience, you knock on the door, the host opens, lets you in, no problems. And then it's the 6-star experience, and that's where you're, you know, creating an experience that goes beyond what is expected. And I think creating a great onboarding experience, it's it's not that hard to go above expectations, um, but you need to figure out what's the line of feasibility. But you won't get there if you just try to design the experience from, just what are we able to do. You need to actually design the 1-star experience, the 2-star experience, the 5-star experience. Then you'll design the 6 and 7-star experience. But then Airbnb, they went on to build like this 10-star and the 11-star experience as well, because they wanted to show that what happens if you create an experience for a person where they would get, the best vacation of their life. And what would happen to that person? Well, that person would become a champion, and they would, rage on and tell people about that experience. And once you've done that, so the Airbnb founders, they did that. They created the best a vacation experience for a few people, and the learnings they got from that is, there's actually some things in that really amazing experience that we can create for everyone. It's not that hard, but they needed to do that. So uh, when I, for example, talk about creating this wow experience, maybe you can think about the CEO treatment. Like, just do the mental exercise of what if we treated every single person who joined here as the CEO? Like, it's not feasible, it's not something you can do, but that mental exercise would, create like this aha moment of, well, the CEO gets to meet, all the important stakeholders. Why can't we create a video of all the important stakeholders in our company and send it to every single new hire? It's just a 1-minute clip, but that would give them, the experience of meeting people and understanding the culture, and the threshold of them, you know, networking within our company would be much lower if we sent them, it can just be a picture with some text and a link to their LinkedIn profile. What happens to me as an employee if I had received, the LinkedIn profile of them, some of the people that I'm working with before day one? Well, I'll connect with them before day one, and I'll feel part of the company before day one, and they can help me, get socialized into the culture much quicker. So that's just an idea that could come up by having that mental design thinking framework. So I'll just go through what I feel is like a 1-star experience or a 2-star experience. So it's actually the employees are the most engaged before day one, which is kind of sad. You want them to be the most engaged after, they started to work in your company. But the moment I decide, yes, I want to work with your company, that's when I'm the most engaged. After that, there's in I know in marketing there's like this psychologic thing that happens. So the moment you buy your car, you'll actually do more research on cars to make sure that you chose the right car. So people actually do more research once they bought the car than before they bought the car in some instances. And the same happens to your employees. Once they sign the offer letter, that's when they become nervous, like, oh, did I choose the right job? Maybe I should have chosen the other option I had. Maybe I should have stayed. And if they get an offer from their current employer or another employer, if they feel very anxious, that's problematic. So before day one, that's where you can do a lot of groundwork and create a great experience. And this is where I feel like the people who are designing the onboarding experience, you actually have a lot of power in this stage, because a lot of the power is left to the manager to provide a great experience after day one. But before day one, we can actually communicate with the employee. We can support them and give them a great experience before day one. And the 1-star experience is that you don't hear anything, and if you hear anything, it's very impersonal and task driven. In the first weeks, a messy first day. So people are 10 times more likely to talk about a negative experience. And what happens after first day? Well, you'll come home and all your friends and family and spouse or, will talk about like, how was your first day? And if the first day was not a good first day, that will color and create a really bad, or you need to work a lot to improve the experience after the first day. So we've heard stories about employees quitting after a really terrible first day. Managers that don't have time, no support from the team and colleagues. These are typical things that can really ruin a first week experience. And the consequence is low employee net promoter score. So net promoter, that's a question. It's just one question. It's, would you recommend other people to join this organization? And then it's a 1 to 10 star metric. And you want people to say 9 or 10, because those are the people who are actively talking positively about joining your organization. And if you're getting a 1 or a 2, then they're actively talking negatively about joining your organization. So the MPS score is the best score for employer branding and how well your company is attracting top talent. Bad reviews on Glassdoor, lower productivity and engagement, and turnover. So a 6-star experience, that's, what the ideal onboarding experience would look like. So after recruitment process, you'll send the information, the employee information. And I like to think of it as like continuing the employer branding and the marketing, basically, because you don't want to give a really amazing recruiting experience and this, will take really good care of you. And then the moment you'll sign, then you don't hear anything, and then you're just left to, sink and swim mindset. So keeping up the communications, exciting the employee, getting the basics right is also critical. In the first weeks, and honestly, in the pre-start, it's easy to go above the expectations because people have quite really low expectations to what will happen before day one. So anything you do here will feel like, wow, they actually care about the humans that are joining this organization. And if they get that experience, they would like to reciprocate. That was a hard word. They would like to do the same thing back to your company. So, and then in the first weeks, um, if you are able to, and I know it's not easy for all organizations to do this, but have some sort of ritual or some sort of amazing thing that happens on day one. So an example some of our customers are doing, they're sending out a survey to the employees and asking the employees for their favorite snack or their favorite lunch. And then the manager gets some coaching like, hey, if you want to do something special for the new hire on day one, here is their favorite lunch and here is their favorite snack. So the manager can go and, take that employee to their favorite lunch or buy them that snack. And that is what we see if you create a great onboarding experience. People actually talk about it on LinkedIn and to their friends, and that improves the likelihood of more people applying to the jobs. Managers who follow up, create a plan, etc. That's critical. And then a lot of companies, they think onboarding is just orientation day and then that's it, but it's actually should last way longer than what most companies are doing today. And some companies we talk to, they say, well, we have a great first week, but then after first week, there's just you're just up to figuring out on your own. So keeping the onboarding journey last for longer is also really smart. um, I mentioned nudging and coaching the managers. And then, of course, if you don't measure the onboarding, if you don't have any data points whatsoever in HR, it's really hard to improve the onboarding. So you should do some surveys and get feedback. So in order to improve the experience. So I'll try to jump over to the solution because I think it would be nice for y'all to see how you can go into Preppio and create a great onboarding experience. Um, I'll I'll send this over to everyone who signed up for the webinar. It's um, it's some of you have already downloaded this, but it's a complete best practice. It's in Excel, so I can send this over to you. So we'll basically have written down during pre-boarding, what are the things you can do in order to create a great pre-boarding experience. We've, said, who are the this is the manager, this is HR, this is the new hire. We've written down the things you can do, and then we've also said this is in order to build connection, this is to create confidence, etc. And then we have that throughout the full onboarding experience. So I'll send that to you, and that template can be a starting point for you to build your own onboarding experience. um, Let me also share my screen and show how you could build that in Preppio. So I will go to my dashboard. So uh, unfortunately, I spent too much time during the presentation, so I'll just go briefly into the Preppio solution. So if you want, please connect with me, and we can show you how you can get access to Preppio and start building your onboarding experience. Um, So once you log into Preppio, you'll get to a dashboard, and that dashboard is an area where you can easily measure the onboarding experience in your company. Um, I would like to show how, so you can go to our template section and you could, just take a template, and that template would be the starting point of where you would build out your onboarding experience in our tool. And our tool it's a journey creator, so you'll create a journey, and as you'll see, once you have this journey, you would go to it looks like this. So you have a lot of content on the left side here. We have over 200 different content pieces and templates. So here you could pick and choose the best practices that we've created, and you could just drag the content that you want in your journey to the timeline. You would choose, who you want the message to go to. So you could say this is for the employee. And then, I would like to send this, 3 days before day one. And then I would like to send this from SMS or email or Teams. So is it a mandatory task? Is it not? Once you've created this message would, be populated into this timeline. So it's a journey creator. This could be integrated to your HRIS if you want to. So if you're using Workday, SuccessFactors, whatever tool you're using, we could easily be integrated to that platform. And then you can also activate the journey. So minus 30 days, this welcome message would be sent out to the employee. And in yellow, this task would be sent out to the manager. So this is how you would get people to actually complete the onboarding process. And we've had customers who've gone from using their HRIS only to do onboarding and see about, when they talk to managers, employees, no one's actually following the onboarding experience, onboarding process. But with Preppio, they've been able to create custom journeys for different roles. So you could create a role for graduates, you could create a role for new managers, you could create a role for employees, you could create a role for, people in the HQ and people in the front line, and that would be different journeys for different roles. And once you've done that, you could, send messages. So this is for graduates that start, the pre-boarding starts a year before day one, and then it just goes on for a full year. But for other roles, you might be onboarding with just 3 days notice. So you'll create something there. I wanted to show like an Apple showcase. I see how much time we have. So we don't have time, but basically the message would go out to the employee as an SMS, and then you would click this page and it would look something like this on their mobile. So they would just get SMS with links to the pre-boarding experience, and we could send them back to Workday or SuccessFactors or any HRIS tool, but we would be the messaging and automating this experience. So we're out of time. I tried to go over everything. Hope that it was valuable for you. If you have any questions, I'll stay for a few more minutes at the end, and happy to answer them. Thank you so much for joining the webinar, and talk soon. Thanks. I can send more information. Yeah, I'll send an email to everyone who signed up with the